Yep.
I'm just stopping in to wish everyone good luck tonight. I've been drinking a little bit, so I ain't gonna go live with y'all tonight. But I want to say I am gonna be watching live, giving you a thumbs up.
Yep.
And, nail that Plocher. I heard somebody say, "Hey, who was that?"
No, nobody said that. He's currently got the stream running. It's just he's trying to test things out before it starts. So before we start for the night, I think he's got us muted for right now. But
all right,
wanna be sure here. Oh, ooh, that looks nice. Gaming PC. Oh, I need this.
Hey, I think he's live now. All right, y'all. I'm gonna disconnect and watch live. Y'all have a good one.
All right.
Welcome to the Missouri Freedom Initiative. Hey there, gang. Sorry about that. We had a long intro there. We needed it, though. Give us a 5x5. Whatever platform you're listening on, please let us know you can hear us okay. A 5x5 on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble or Odysee, any of them. Please let us know. It is the 28th of October. It's a Saturday. It's 7:30 at night. And look at that debt, $33.678 trillion, gang. Yeah, so we start out every live stream with the debt because these numbers are just so stratospheric and they keep going up by sometimes hundreds of billions a week. So we like to keep tabs on that. And we'll have the whole crew here in just a second. As soon as we see that we're getting some 5x5s from all the platforms, let's see. 5x5 from Marby's on Odysee. Thank you, Marby's. And let's see if I can figure it out on YouTube. Looks like, yeah, plenty of 5x5s on YouTube. Thank you very much on YouTube. Next, we'll go to Rumble. No one's checked in on Rumble. Come on, guys. Come on. I know you're watching on Rumble. Little Birdie told me that we've got 3 people watching currently on Rumble. Let us know on Rumble. Twitch, let's see, only 1 viewer on Twitch, and that viewer, if it's the same viewer as last week, they didn't say anything. But thank you for watching. We appreciate you. Okay, gang. All right. Enough with the music in the intro. We got enough 5x5s to know that we are rolling. So let's go ahead and take it down to Gilded. And let's see. There we go. There we go.
Got everybody unmuted.
Okay. Yep. Everyone should be unmuted and live. So we've got Caleb with us. Thank you for joining us, Caleb. We've got let's see, Voodoo Queen with us, and we've got our friend Asher with us as well. I'm sure we'll have more people joining as the evening goes on. Let's see. On YouTube, we got lots of people chiming in. Pika. Hey there, Pika. Good to see you, buddy. We've got Mad Mom, which also gave us a 5x5. Gary Ride is with us. And let's see, Casey Rich and Jonathan Ashley. Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay, gang. I'll tell you what, now that we got the whole crew with us, it's probably time that we start talking about what's actually going on in Jefferson City. It's not like we have any inside information. We probably don't. But I think it's interesting nonetheless that we have someone who actually represents the swamp better than most people in Jefferson City. Someone who represents the WEF better than most people in Jefferson City. Someone who represents, basically all the qualities you'd expect in a totalitarian leader, better than most in Jefferson City. That's right. We're talking about Dean Plocher. And Dean, if you're watching tonight, big shout out to you. Thank you for giving us something to talk about. We had nothing slated for tonight, so we would have had no content whatsoever if you hadn't gotten involved in, I don't know what you want to call it, embezzlement. Do we call it embezzlement? Do we call it, 9 honest mistakes in 5 years? Could we call it that maybe? Because that sounds better than embezzlement.
Campaign.
I like money laundering.
Money laundering?
Money laundering.
Yeah.
Embezzlement.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's probably some campaign fraud in there too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a little bit of campaign fraud as well. Okay, so Dean, take your pick. Any one of those things. Or I guess we could chalk it up to extreme stupidity. I mean, take your pick. Any one of those, actually. So Casey Rich was nice enough to post all of the latest stories for us, and I'm going to actually bring them up one at a time.
You know what word I like? Caught.
You like what? I'm sorry? Okay, Casey, that's all right, buddy. Let me get us back.
He said caught.
Oh, caught. Okay, understood. Okay, so go ahead.
Speaking of caught, this is just all he's gotten caught for, and there's like a public display of it. I mean, there's a lot of other things we know this man's done that he likely will never be caught for.
Yeah. Well, it really comes down
let's
to.
not be so sure.
Yeah,
No.
It comes down to. Let's see. Oh, Isaac calls it creative accounting. There we go.
Creative accounting.
Yeah, it is creative accounting, to be sure. And so let's see. Oh, Tom Mart says the Amish in Missouri are quite different than the old school Amish in PA that I grew up around.
That's from conversations early before the show.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, understood. Because I'm not sure how that would apply to Plocher, but you know what though? I bet you we could squish it in there somewhere. So Dean Plocher, we just want you to know the Amish in Missouri are quite different than the old school Amish that are in Pennsylvania that Tom grew up around. And so, take that. All right. Okay. Let us move on to some of the issues here with Dean Plocher. Once again, Dean Plocher is the House Speaker in Missouri. He's a Republican. We refer to him as a squishy. He's not really a rhino. I don't classify Plocher as a rhino. I think squishy is appropriate though. So he is a squishy Republican. And any of you who read, basically the emails that I send out, know what a squishy is. For those who don't get my emails, get on the email list. What are you waiting for? It's free. It's at mofree.org. So not only am I saying it's free, it's actually, there's free in the name here. So let's go with squishy Republican. This is coined by John Williams with the Missouri Liberty Report. The definition: a squishy Republican is a person who runs as a Republican but has no loyalty to the party platform. Squishy Republicans are soft and malleable, and their behavior and political views are easily shaped by corporations and special interests that fund their campaigns and or political action committee. That's what a squishy Republican is, and that's kind of, the way we kind of view Dean Plocher. Okay, so apparently our governor is watching Plocher now. I'm not sure why, so let's read. Missouri Governor Mike...
Go to Fox 2 News.
I'm sorry?
Go to Fox 2 News, KTVI.
Put a link up. Put a link up in the chat here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go to it. Okay, Missouri Governor Mike Parson is keeping an eye on developments surrounding House Speaker Dean Plocher. The Republican lawmaker from St. Louis County is embroiled in controversy. We say corruption or, scandal. Over reimbursements he received over travel expenses that have already been paid with campaign money. According to the Missouri Independent, Parson says it's too early to draw conclusions about whether Plocher should resign. I don't know that it's ever too early to call for the resignation of Dean Plocher. We'll get into that.
It was KSDK, my bad. But I posted it.
Okay, gotcha. You posted it and gilded for us, Joe Mama?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll get to it in just a bit here. Meanwhile, Plocher says he self-reported and immediately corrected administrative errors found in his travel reports. They include nearly $4,000 for a hotel and airfare trip to Hawaii earlier this year. This is back in July, I believe. He says he's begun paying the reimbursements back. Okay, well, that's what this is all about. But I'd like to hear what the governor said. So let's play that. Hopefully that comes across. Let me get my my broadcasting software up and running real quick for ease of figuring out if you guys are hearing what I'm hearing. Okay, let's play the clip.
I don't know all the details other than what I'm reading from you guys, but he needs to pay it back. I mean, if he owes the money, he needs to pay it back, and he needs to get it straight. He needs to tell what happened.
Okay, yep, it was kind of soft, but it did come through. So, but at the same time, in that same speech, Parson actually said that basically we need to find out if Plocher, still has the faith of the people of Missouri. So that's what we're really talking about tonight. Does Dean Plocher retain the confidence of the people of Missouri? Now, that is a difficult question to answer because you have to first assume people trusted him to begin with. And I think that it's dangerous for the governor of Missouri to actually make that assumption right out of hand. The people didn't vote for Plocher to become Speaker of the House. That was done by the representatives in the state of Missouri. So it really comes down to, I guess, whether or not they have confidence in him anymore. And if that's the case, what the governor's inviting you to do is to be sure to email everyone on the ethics committee, as well as your own representative in the House, and let them know whether or not you have confidence in Dean Plocher. Now, once again, this is a guy who is scaling the heights. He's going from Speaker of the House, wants to be Lieutenant Governor, and and then this kind of madness happens. By the way, this is not the first controversy we have found Plocher in. If you follow our channel, there's lots more, but I don't want to squeeze all of them into a live stream tonight because, we'd be here for hours. It'd be a filibuster. Okay, next story. Missouri House Speaker will not step down despite calls to resign. Okay, so he's standing firm. He is not going to release the power he has in Jefferson City right now. So, of course, that's up to the Ethics Committee. That's not really up to Plocher at this point. Missouri House Speaker Dean Plocher, a Republican from St. Louis suburb de Paris. I don't know how to pronounce that. Go ahead.
It's de pair.
De Pair. Okay, gotcha. It sounds very French.
French.
Okay. He will not step down after recent calls to resign. Plocher has repaid thousands in taxpayer dollars that he inappropriately received as reimbursements for travel and for other expenses dating back to 2018. The Kansas City Star reports that Plocher is also facing criticism within his own party, including various calls to resign. In an interview and a podcast this week in Missouri politics, Plocher dismissed any possibility of his leaving the role. I look forward to leading the House and to produce good conservative legislation. That's interesting. He hasn't done it yet, and he's had a full year to try. So for his first year as Speaker, for his first 2-year stint as Speaker, he did nothing to produce good conservative legislation. So I just want to say that. And now he's saying such as property tax cuts, personal property tax reform. I want to say that's one of the problems we had with Plocher in 2023 was preventing personal property tax cuts and personal property tax reform from even going on the floor. Why is that, you may ask? Well, that's because Senator Bill Eigel wasn't letting his Dean Plocher's corporatist bills go through the Senate until he got some grassroots bills done, which was tax cuts. Tax cuts. So Plocher has actually fibbed here. For those of us who are in Missouri that are very active legislative, we're not politicians in the Missouri Freedom Initiative. We are just, basically your grassroots activists. That's who we are. But we could tell you that is a lie coming from Dean Plocher. So he openly lied here about having a passion for property tax cuts and personal property tax reform. So he says, there are a lot of good things I want to do. I'm not going to let this liberal distraction from George Soros remove me from doing a good job for the people. Guys, I'm going to stop right there. I think it's something we should have a group discussion on before we go further real quick here.
Last I checked, he was not liberal.
Well, hey,
or same with the other organizations looking into it.
why would George Soros go after the most corporate politician in Missouri?
Well, That's a good question, especially since Dean Plocher seems to be very much involved in WEF interests in the state of Missouri. Everything from not grasshopper, but cricket, crickets for food, mealworms for food, and then also, batteries for electric cars. Those are moving into Plocher's district. So Soros and the WEF are linked. I think personally, this is my personal opinion, I'm thinking that Dean Plocher may be involved in something psychological here. Deflection, some kind of
yeah, but how is it not obvious that there's a lot of people out there that don't connect dots very well. But the man is effectively a World Economic Forum puppet. And his first response, blaming Soros. Anyway, that's an obvious deflection.
Yep, I'm thinking so too. So Dean, try again, and this time try to be honest. And then we'll see if we accept your next answer. And no, you can't call a friend. By the way, while he was live with Scott Vaughn, a friend did call Plocher. His phone announced it. It actually rang. Maybe we'll play that later. And it turned out that it was John Deal. And that was, 2-3 speakers ago, that was forced to resign because of scandal. Was calling Dean Plocher, who is current House Speaker, mired in scandal. You can't make this up. You absolutely cannot make this stuff up.
I mean, you could make it up, but you don't have to.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way.
That's newsworthy.
You could make these stories up all day and make some kind of novel. Why would you have to if you just write down the truth?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I just want to say that Dawn from Southwest Missouri is chiming in Rumble. So hello to you, Dawn. Before we continue on with our story here, I'm checking our socials to see if anyone has something they needed to say. Let's see. Okay, that looks like about it. I love the comments that are coming in, guys. Keep it coming. And we will continue on right now and head back to our news story here. The Missouri Independent on Monday first reported years of expenses that Plocher received state reimbursement for, even though he paid for the expenses out of his campaign fund and not out of his own pocket. It is estimated that he's repaid around $3,300. Missouri law allows elected officials to use money from their political campaigns for some government-related expenses, but it's unlawful to use taxpayer dollars to reimburse campaigns for political expenses. In a Monday email to fellow Republican House committee members, Plocher wrote that his campaign treasurer, his wife, early last week told him they had received reimbursement from the House from an extra hotel night during a conference that he had attended, and he should not have been reimbursed. Well, I learned of that, and I immediately reimbursed the House, Plocher wrote. Because of this error, I reviewed all of my travel reimbursements, and it revealed that I had additional administrative errors, to which I have corrected. Voters elected Plocher, a lawyer, to the House in 2015. He's banned from term limits. He's banned by term limits. By term limits, because you could do 8 years in the House, and that's it. He's about ready to start his 8th year, so he can't run for that anymore.
Bound by term limits.
Yep, he's bound.
Thank God for term limits.
Yep. And let's see, from running in 2024, and instead is vying to be the state's next lieutenant governor. That's awesome. That's exactly what we need to replace Kehoe as someone who is actually more corrupt than Kehoe. Okay. All right, so here's the next story, Phelps County. Missouri House Ethics Committee begins inquiry into personnel moves by Dean Plocher. And actually, there's a video on this. Maybe we'll bring it up here in a little while. The Missouri House Ethics Committee met Friday for more than 4 hours. I wasn't there. I was working yesterday, but I did see that went for at least 4.5 hours. I didn't see when it actually cut off, but at 4.5 hours, they were still going. Officially, the subject of the meeting is confidential. Of course it is. But sources confirm that members discussed the issues surrounding embattled House Speaker Dean Plocher. I love that, embattled. When it was over, State Rep Hannah Kelly, a Republican from Mountain Grove and the chair of the Ethics Committee, said that the panel will meet again on November 8th for further deliberations. Further deliberations. I love it. I'm not sure that deliberations is the proper word here. I think they're going to actually do some investigations. Now, I will say to everyone who is watching this right now, we do have a lot of rhinos and squishies in the Ethics Committee by design. So I don't want anyone to get their hopes up that they're going to do anything, really dramatic or something surprising or anything. I think it really kind of comes down to representatives in the House, in the people. I think that's who it comes down to. I don't think we should really count on ethics committees when they're filled with squishies and rhinos. Okay, no formal complaint is currently before the committee, and the meeting notice called it an inquiry. Kelly said it's unclear on whether the inquiry would become a full investigation, which would trigger sworn testimony and a report on whether misconduct occurred. This is a great question that I can't answer, Kelly said. That's a great question that I just can't answer. I'm sorry. I've taken an oath. Except for the opening call and the adjournment vote, the hearing was held behind closed doors. Under House and Ethics Committee rules, proceedings are confidential, and none of the discussions, testimony, or evidence gathered is public until the report is issued, either confirming or repudiating the alleged misconduct. The 10-member committee is split evenly between Republicans and Democrats. So this is supposed to be impartial and, of course, and it's, I guess you would say nonpartisan. It's supposed to be anyway. But Republicans and Democrats historically do not get along up in Jefferson City. So it's interesting if they're working together in peace and harmony, joining hands and singing Kumbaya as they actually look into all the corruption surrounding the Speaker of the House, Dean Plocher, who, by the way, we should be watching his PAC to make sure that PAC money from Missouri United, that's Plocher's PAC, isn't spilling into the PACs of the people, on the Ethics Committee, by the way. I'm just throwing out there as an ironic, humorous kind of a joke. I'm not saying that you should really spend a lot of time on that. That's a little too obvious. He'll probably pay them off with Bitcoin or Monero or something like that. That's my guess. The personal controversies in the Speaker's office include Plocher's decision on October 17th to fire his chief of staff, Kenny Ross. That was a big one too, gang. Who is also chief of staff for the three most recent Republican speakers. Including Todd Richardson, Elijah Haar, and Rob Vescovo. Another personnel issue involving Plocher is tied to his heavy push, that's something I'd like to talk about tonight, heavy push for the House to purchase expensive constituent communication software and allegations that he threatened to terminate the employment of a nonpartisan legislative staffer who resisted. Okay. Since these episodes became public, The Independent reported that Plocher regularly sought reimbursements for expenses paid by his campaign fund. On at least 9 occasions since 2018, Plocher spent campaign money on conference registration, airfare, hotels, and other travel-related expenses, and then also sought the same reimbursements from the legislature. Double dipping, gang. In each instance, Plocher was required to sign a sworn statement declaring that the payments that were made with personal funds for which I have not been reimbursed. So actually, that gets into possibly a federal charge code, especially if it goes over $5,000. Mm-hmm. Plocher has begun, and by the way, SEPA won't save Plocher because that's only about guns, so they're going to use charge codes for embezzlement, I'm sure. Plocher has begun repaying the reimbursements 2 weeks after the Independent submitted the request for expense reports. 2 weeks after. Go ahead.
Can I comment this? I guess nobody gifted him the same washing machine that DC uses.
Yeah, so he's laundering money with a different washing machine, I imagine. So, okay, so let's see. So it's more than $4,000. That's what the story says anyway. It's a checkbook error, but there's lots of accounts bouncing around. Well, I'm sure there is, Plocher. I'm sure there's lots of accounts bouncing around. Plocher said Thursday in an interview streamed on social media, it's quite tedious, he said, to bounce all those accounts around. I'm sure it is. Submitting false expense reports could be prosecuted as stealing from the state. a Class A misdemeanor. It could also be considered a false declaration, Class B misdemeanor, that involves knowingly submitted any written false statement. Plocher could also have run afoul of laws prohibiting campaign contributions from being converted to personal use. Possibly. Gosh, it's so hard, though, with all those accounts bouncing around, guys. I mean, I don't know. Poor Plocher. Plocher, a Republican from Paris, was elected Speaker in January. He is barred. No, he wasn't. He was elected Speaker back in 2022. Wasn't that like in March of 2022? So I guess that was the early election, and then they did another one in January. He is barred from seeking another term, and among 3 Republican candidates intending to enter the 2024 primary for lieutenant governor. Revelations about his expenses led quickly to calls for an investigation, some with prominent Republicans calling on Plocher to resign as Speaker. We'll get into that in a little bit here now. Will Scharf, a GOP candidate and interviewed just 1 week ago by our good friend John Williams with the Missouri Liberty Report, was among the first to criticize Plocher, calling on him to explain himself or resign. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, a candidate for governor, called for an investigation and action if wrongdoing is found. A second Republican candidate for governor, Senator Bill Eigel, said Plocher should immediately resign. 3 GOP House members, State Reps Chris Sander of Lone Jack, Mazzy Boyd of Hamilton, and Doug Ritchie from Excelsior Springs have called on Plocher to resign. And we're talking about resign from the speakership, guys. That's when there are calls for a resignation. That's what they mean. On Friday, State Senator Andrew Koenig, a Republican from Manchester and a candidate for state treasurer, added to the calls for Plocher's resignation. The recent revelations of Speaker Dean Plocher are troubling, to say the least, Koenig said in a post on X, formerly called Twitter. He violated the same campaign finance rules on 9 different occasions and misused taxpayer funds. He must resign immediately so that we can get to the business of serving Missourians. Plocher has defenders. State Rep Brian Seitz of Branson warned that his removal would create a spectacle. We do not want a debacle like what happened to the speaker in Washington, D.C., Seitz wrote on social media. And Plocher himself lashed out at critics, raising accusations about Ashcroft and Scharf and attacking the Independent for uncovering an issue. Okay, we're going to take a break there, for some more conversation here. But
I hear something interesting. My mom went to high school with Brian Seitz.
Okay, gotcha. Well, you might want to talk to her and find out if there was something strange in the water, because Brian Seitz shouldn't be saying that on the onset. Casey Rich, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if speakers start toppling in states all over the country?
Yeah, I guess it would.
I mean, look, every state is corrupt to the core. I mean, think about it, folks. Just put this in your head. Think about this for a minute. I mean, I'm pretty much preaching to the choir, but anybody that's just, casually stopped by tonight or something, checking this out, I want you to think about something. When Jefferson City, when they're in session from January to May, every day you have corporations and their lobbyists, and they're working hard to turn the politicians towards their interests. Every day. How often are the people up there? Very little. So do you really think that voting for a 2-party corporate monopoly every 2 to 4 years, how do you think that's going to hold up against all these corporations, their lobbyists working the system every day up there in Jeff City?
Yep.
Okay? Think about that, folks. And it's been going on like that for decades. Our state is corrupt to the core, and so is every other state in this country, and so is every other country on this planet. Did you hear me?
I did.
Was I loud enough and clear enough? Everything I said
Casey,
is a fact. Someone want to challenge me?
No, I was going to agree with
What?
you. No, there's no country on this planet that ain't got blood on their hands, buddy. Keep preaching.
There are no democracies. There are no constitutional representative republics. We have a global oligarchy. Let's just be real, folks. And I don't want to hear some dumbass saying conspiracy theory or some kind of nonsense like that. It's a fact. I was up in Jeff City this last session pretty much every damn day. And I'm telling you, here's how it works. Corporations, banking, and all that. Politics is below that. We, the people, are dead on the bottom. And we're the hosts that the rest of the parasites feed off of. We're taxed the most, they're taxed the least. They get everything they want, we get nothing. So, and like I said, they work the system up there every day. And all we do is go vote for Tweedledee or Tweedledum every 2 to 4 years. We don't have nothing. They rule and control everything. That's in the state, your county, municipality, every country on this planet. Simple as that. When are you going to wake up, people, and start realizing this and start taking action?
That was probably rhetorical, but if you're
what we got,
I agree with
Matt,
Casey.
finish something,
I agree
please.
with. I do.
Hang on there, John. I want to finish something here. All right. What we got, Dean Plocher on there. Everybody's hoping he steps down. You know what? I'm hoping he fights to stay on, because the longer he stays on, the longer he's going to be in the spotlight. I'm telling you right now, the software and the charges for the trip to Hawaii, whatever. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
Just on Dean. That's just Dean. He's the tip of the iceberg. Everything else.
Okay, Casey, you're breaking up on us, and your
video's frozen. There's a lot of
frozen.
exposing and cleanup to do. Yeah, keep fighting, Dean. Stay on there, man. Don't give up.
I kind of hear you too, Casey, and I agree with you. 100%. And if anybody would know, you would know. You have spent a lot of time up there.
Yep. And once again, Casey's right. This particular live stream is not about all the politicians in the world. We're just talking about Dean Plocher tonight, but Casey made an excellent point that this is going on everywhere. It's in D.C., it's in whatever state you live in, it's in your town. They're all there. Basically, most politicians are not necessarily good people. Now, I know one or two good politicians. I don't want to group them all together. I know actually more than one or two, but the ones that seek power, generally, you got to keep a close eye on them. And Dean Plocher is certainly not an exception. He is probably the rule, actually, when it comes to this. Dean Plocher's done a lot of strange stuff over the years, and we've watched it firsthand. We've been active. We've been up in Jeff City. So I have to agree with KC and his comments on that. Let's see. And then Isaac says, it's because you accuse your opponent of the crimes that you commit. Rules for radicals play. That is correct. That's an interesting thing, too, is constantly blaming George Soros for, everything that, that you may or may not be doing. Basically blaming George Soros, saying, oh, it's George Soros and his operatives that are coming after me. That's the reason why this is even a story in the first place. Of course, basically he's going immediately to the George Soros thing. And that is no surprise for Plocher. And we're going to go further into detail here, gang. And thank you all for joining us tonight, by the way. Whether you're on YouTube, Odysee, Twitch, Facebook, or on Rumble, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hopefully all platforms are working. I'm doing my best to monitor all of them. There's a lot of conversation happening on the YouTube side. But we're going to continue on here with our story on Plocher here. So give me just a moment to bring it up. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we're going back to Koenig. And actually, we pretty much finished up that story. So we're going to go to the next tab here. We'll go to some videos, too. Missouri House Speaker Dean Plocher dismisses calls for his resignation. Well, of course he does. Of course he does. Plocher began repaying misappropriated reimbursements 2 weeks after the Independent submitted a sunshine request seeking his expense reports. Okay, this is by John Hancock with the Missouri Independent. Missouri House Speaker Dean Plocher said he would absolutely not consider resignation over allegations of wrongdoing that have engulfed him in recent weeks. Joining one of the most vocal supporters on Thursday and painting the saga as conspiracy whipped up by leftist media, Democrats, and disgruntled staff. Guys, should we play that video? Will you guys be tolerant for 15 minutes of
I'm
watching
down.
this
And I
week.
gotta say, I love that name, John Hancock.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. It's basically this week in Missouri politics. So let me find that real quick.
Oh God.
There we go. Yeah. So we're going to bring up the hillbilly and his live video he did on Thursday. There we go. Let's start at the beginning.
If you've got a weak stomach, get your Pepto out.
Says they got a problem with DNR. They track that and try to get back to them, answer their
Don't
questions,
forget Tom.
follow up with them. The software system do that. You thought needed an upgrade, right?
Well, over the years, many members, former reps, former speakers, in fact, have suggested that it needed upgrading. This most recent time that it happened, I referred it to.
Jump right in and bring in.
Here we go. I'll start from the beginning. Sorry about that, gang. I'm going to check my audio levels here because I know it's coming across kind of low.
Thank you. Let's just jump right in here. I know you got a limited amount of time, but it seems like the controversy.
Oh yeah, and right after Dean fired his chief of staff, he went to work for Roden.
If a person from Sedalia calls Brad Pollitt, says they got a problem.
I've seen
with
that.
DNR,
Hey,
they track that and try
you
to
mean
get back
crab
to them, answer
cakes?
their questions,
Oh wait,
follow
no.
up with them.
Yeah,
The
no.
software
No.
system to do that. You thought needed
Caleb
Okay,
Brown
hang on. I'm
is,
stopping the video.
Over the years,
Casey, get it out of your system, man. What did you want to say? Because I'm trying to show the video live right now.
That's not crab cakes. That's not crab cakes. It's
No, what it is after Plocher fired his chief of staff, which I guess he was probably, using as because of the all the stuff they missed when they were supposed to pay that stuff. So I guess that's probably his way of saying it's that guy's fault, not me. But no sooner that dude was fired, Caleb Rowden turned around and hired him. Caleb Rowden is the Senate Pro Tem.
Yep.
I just thought that's kind of interesting.
Yep, sure is. And that's exactly what happened, too. Okay, I'm going to play the video, gang.
many members,
Take one for the
former
team,
reps,
and we'll give you a
former
reward.
speakers, in fact, have suggested that it needed upgrading. This most recent time that it happened, I referred it to the Administration and Accounts Committee, which was the right committee to refer it to, and let them decide.
So, to me, when you read something, I don't care who you are. I don't care what news you're watching. You watch this show, you're going to get a filter of certain biases. It seemed like this started off as like some sort of controversy. And I'm like, this is my own white trash hillbilly observation. I mean, there's nothing
So,
wrong
I
with
hear
discussing
nothing.
whether you could upgrade that system, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
nothing inherently wrong about it.
Not inherently whatsoever. In fact, I followed the correct process, the process and the role of the speaker. I referred it to the right committee for a transparent hearing so that the members can decide. And that's what this House is all about, for the members to decide what's best for the state.
I've actually worked in the House. A lot of folks watching this are familiar with the House processes. It seems like the chief clerk of the House had a role in this. Typically, when you're looking at something like this, what is the role of the chief clerk?
Well, in this particular case, I would say that it's advisory.
Yeah. So this is where to me, this is just my own hillbilly horse sense, kind of looking into a situation, and maybe the first time I smelled something might be up is it seemed like right in the first of this, the Missouri Independent got involved. And I'll just tell you, word here on High Street. I mean, obviously, look, I don't have a beef with Independent does, but let's be candid. They are funded by left-wing interest groups to put out left-wing news, and you're not left-wing, so you're the problem. It seemed like right away they were tipped off. And let me just ask you, do you believe the Missouri Independent, the Democrat left-wing news operation, was tipped off by a member of your staff about this situation to make it look controversial?
I think, Scott, I'd love to know exactly. I don't know if I'll ever know. But what I do know is the one fact that this happened. I turned the reimbursement check in. Okay, I turned it into administration.
Hold on, we're talking about the constituent management thing.
Oh.
It seemed like right away when this constituent management thing came up, there were all these off-the-record sources, which, look, if you're going to do a lot of journalism, you're going to get some off-the-record sources. It seemed like right away the Independent was right in the middle of whether you should upgrade this, casting it as some nefarious thing you were doing. Do you think that someone on the House staff worked with the Democrats to have a politically hurtful news story about this contact management software?
I think there's some unique circumstantial evidence that will hopefully reveal itself over due time, but there's a lot of commonality with what's going on as I'm repeatedly attacked by the same George Soros funded media that's incredibly biased and really not telling the whole story.
Well, let me just ask you this. I mean, again, I could tell you what folks are saying at Grand Cafe or Coffee Zone, but the gist of it is that, frankly, some staff have, like we all have, some folks we're more friends with than others. Let me just ask you the question. If this contact management software company had retained a different lobbyist, do you think that some members of your staff would have been as quick to run to the independent and make this seem nefarious?
I don't know, but what's weird is that.
Well, I'll just tell you, I don't think they would have.
Yeah, you know, it's circumstantial, and I think sometimes when it continues to be so circumstantial, it smells funny, is what it is.
Well, it's also I don't think the independent was pulled out of a hat. I mean, they didn't call Brandon Rather, right? They called the independent, right? So I mean, it kind of is what it kind of is. They knew what I think they knew what they were doing. But now let me just ask you this: after seeing some of the stuff you've seen, Governor Plocher tried to come out and warn folks about the independent.
He did.
Looking back, we're all geniuses. Looking back 50-50, it's like an opinion from 10 beers ago. It's always a little sharper, right? Or a little 10 beers later. Do you think you should have maybe listened to Governor Parson when he gives the warnings first about this political operation the Missouri Independent is?
I clearly do. In fact, I sent a letter to the caucus outlining my concerns for this anything but independent group. I actually called Governor Parson and apologized for not heeding his advice more sternly. And I suggest everybody else do as well. Learning from example.
So let me ask this. Ultimately, the accounts committee, headed by Dale Wright, a lead belt guy, a good old boy, they decided for whatever reason they weren't going to go forward and buy this software. I mean, I assume you probably disagree, but I mean, are you comfortable with that being the last word on it?
Absolutely. In fact, Scott, I never formed an opinion one way or the other over this constituent management. I sent it to committee, let the committee hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, figure it out. They did their job. They had their hearing. It's, that's the role of the process that the House of Representatives is supposed to use when vetting what we are doing for the state of Missouri.
By the way, I got to thank my buddy Chip from Lake St. Louis. He tells me that's a town that's not St. Louis. I just think he's delusional, but I appreciate this. He lives a lake life, which that lake is kind of like we call that a big pond back home, but I appreciate the Stein. So I heard the FBI was looking into this, and listen, I almost I hear probably twice a day somebody tells me the FBI is investigating something. So I'm just a skeptical hillbilly. I just kind of don't always buy into when people say that. But I read this, and I read it enough places that I thought, okay. So I know some of the doormen, good fellas. I asked, was there any old boy you didn't know? No. I asked some members of the committee, hey, was there somebody here you didn't see that might have been from the FBI? I mean, FBI guys that I know look like FBI guys. They look like you. They're very fit. They're always wearing a suit. They look pretty official. They don't look like me. They don't look like Kelton. So I asked around, did anybody see anybody in that room that wasn't, that you didn't know? Not one person I could find said they saw somebody they didn't know. I guess the question, and maybe I've got my opinion is, this was just some propaganda made up to feed to the independent. Am I wrong?
I believe it's the oldest trick in the book to assert that the FBI is involved in something, because anytime you call the FBI, they will neither confirm nor deny.
And I don't want to act like I know they weren't there. I don't want to act like I know they're not investigating anything. They could be investigating anyone anytime for all I know. They could be investigating Kelton's illegal gambling racket that he set up. And if the FBI is watching, it was all Kelton's idea. It was all his fault. I'd like to be one of Trump's lawyers, not Trump. But it just seems to me like, we call it bullshit back home.
There it is. There's the phone call from the former House Speaker that was, never mind. I'm going to stop talking.
I saw you come in hard on one thing last year. It was IP reform.
Yes.
And for those of you, we may have a little bigger audience today. It's called initiative petition reform. It's where if the legislature won't do something, they go get signatures and they put it on the ballot and the people vote. Been very successful for a lot of progressive or more liberal causes. And look, you know me, if the folks want something, I think the folks ought to get what they want. You have been very stringent about changing this. The same people that fund the independent are East Coast, very liberal groups. The same people that fund these IP reform changes are East Coast, very liberal groups. Do you think you're being targeted by them because you're trying to change their honey hole?
Circumstances would clearly indicate. I mean, I've advocated for constitutional IP reform now for 6 years. It needs to be addressed. The voters need to be aware of what's on there. There needs to be transparency. I've always advocated for transparency. Be forthright about it. Let us know what you're doing to our Constitution. I think it's more than circumstantial evidence that this George Soros funded left-wing group has been haunting me now for a long time. And I believe certainly will continue to do so. It's, I'm a target when you believe in good policy, when you're standing up for something, sometimes people shoot at you, and that's what's happening.
Well, I mean, I guess good policy is always in the eye of the beholder, but it does feel like that when the Independent goes after you, then the Post and the Star, they're kind of just, they're not what they used to be. They grab on and follow suit and here and so, and before you know it, the members of the opposition party are kind of taking their cue, and it is a bit of a snowball. And look, sometimes I don't think the Independent lies. I just think they're going to take something like, should you figure out how Brad Pollock can call that old boy in Sedalia back easier or not, into something bad. I don't accuse them of lying. I don't frankly think they do. The way they couch things is the old bias that started back in the days of Dan Rather and has just gotten bigger. Let me just ask you this. You've had some staff change. There's been some talk of a shakeup in the organization of the office. Did that have anything to do with this contact management software? Oh, we might have lost him here. Maybe Mr. Soros logged in. Some people say,
you wonder, don't you?
Some people say I knew George Soros. I used to tell him to do that because I'm a Republican, so I like rich people. I used to try to foster that for my street cred, but I can't believe he tried to take out my broadcast here. Son of a gun.
Well, a lot of this is in hindsight. You look at this hit, but I do believe the leftist liberal media has an agenda. They're selling that. They don't tell the story entirety. They use innuendos and facades to push their agenda. It's happening to all of us. I'm not the only one. I'm just happen to be in the spotlight right now.
Well, I mean, you've had some staff shakeup. There's been some discussion of rearranging some of the organization in the office.
I just want to pause right there real quick and say something. It wasn't George Soros that shut down SB 100 in the House in 2023. That was Dean Plocher. Dean Plocher shut down SB 100, not George Soros. Dean Plocher shut down HB 2118 in 2008, in 2022. That was Dean Plocher that did that, not George Soros. HB 2009, basically parents' choice on vaccination in 2022. That was shut down by Dean Plocher, not by George Soros. The good conservative legislation that we want, like getting rid of sales taxes on food in the state of Missouri, has been shut down by Dean Plocher, not by George Soros. So Dean Plocher, constantly blaming George Soros for the bad things happening to him, he ought to look in the mirror here real quick and look at all the conservative legislation that we have tried to get through the state of Missouri that he has single-handedly shut down, either in his role as the speaker or as floor leader, like he was in 2021 and 2022. So Dean Plocher also played a role in shutting down SEPA during the 8 years we were trying to get it done with Elijah Haar, who was Speaker of the House at the time. That wasn't George Soros, that was Dean Plocher. Guys, this guy has done an enormous amount of damage legislatively in the state of Missouri, and George Soros had nothing to do with it. It was all Dean. I'm going to get back here and resume playing.
Did that have anything to do with this contact management software situation?
Not whatsoever. This has been an ongoing discussion within my office on how I was going to handle it. The timing perhaps was not the best, but not at all.
Let me ask you this. So if anybody's read anything, folks have been discussing about some expenses that you had, whether they were paid for by your campaign, by the state. It is, I even think to most observers of government, a touch confusing how that all works. We've read the liberals' version of what happened. Just tell folks in your own words, what happened with this situation?
Well, I released a statement to the caucus because I think it's worthy of explaining, and I did. Staff, there were some errors made, right? We found the errors. We self-reported. We corrected. We made the reimbursements. I think that's the honest, correct thing to do. Should this have happened? No. and it's embarrassing. It's a checkbook error, but there's a lot of accounts bouncing around. It's quite tedious. I caught it, and I'm grateful that I caught it. I own it. The buck has to stop with me. We reimbursed. Enough said.
So here's the part I hear ever so often. Folks on the Capitol bend my ear, and I'm damn grateful for it. But I heard not long after you found this or cut a check or whatever you did, and we're talking a few $1,000s here, right?
Yes.
You were contacted by the Independent. Almost how long was it before the Democrats contacted you after you had turned your reimbursement in?
Well, it's one of those suspicious circumstances again. I can tell you what I know. I wrote the check. As I started to say earlier, I turned it in to House Accounts, and within about an hour, I received an email from the Independent telling me they were going to do an article on that.
So, I mean, I'm somewhat familiar with sunshine laws. I like to think I have a good relationship with the legislature. I've never complained it's taken too long, but boy, an hour, you're just damn lucky, right? There's no. I'll just tell you. Let's just talk hogs, dogs, and logs here. We've known each other a long time. Do you believe that a current or former staffer for the House, after you turn that check in, immediately just notified the Democrats?
All I'm able to comment on here is what I did, because I know that to be the facts. The facts were I cut a check to reimburse the House, which was the right thing to do, and I turned it in. Period. Within an hour and a half, I got an email from the Independent. That's what I know.
We'd call that back home fishy. So anyhow, let me just ask you this. I've been around the House. I've actually think I filled out some expense reports when I worked there. Gosh, you can tell by the gray and the hair, something you don't have yet, which is very concerning to me and kind of pisses me off. But it's been a long time ago, but I turned in some House reports. Other members have contacted me since and said, "Oh, this is awful. He's a dirtbag." Others have said, "Hell, I've had trouble with this before. I've had to do things." Now they don't have the amount of different accounts a speaker does, but I mean, it's not totally foreign for somebody to have an issue and have to correct their House expense reports, is there?
Not that I'm aware of, and you don't know what it's like to file these reports until you walk in someone's shoes that do. But as a public official, it's my duty, I believe, to check my work, and I did that. I did the right thing. I think that's what, and I was transparent about it, and I believe in that. That's what you should expect of me.
I would assume there'll be others looking at their reports right now. Give them some advice. I would think everybody's now thinking, "Oh man, I better go back and make sure every jot and tittle's correct," especially if you're a Republican, I assume.
I would. You learn from me, right? I went back and found a mistake, found a couple, corrected it. Do what you need to do. That's the right thing to do.
So the next part of this story was there's a House Ethics Committee meeting on Friday. Why are they meeting?
I'm not able to comment on what the Ethics Committee is doing. It's not the right thing to do. The Ethics Committee was appointed. They have a duty. They have a job. I trust that they take it seriously, and I trust that they're going to come to the conclusions that they come with in the proper way.
Okay, well, I have an email here. It's addressed to you, dated Friday, October 20th at 3:36 p.m. It is from the chief clerk. It says, "Please be advised, pursuant to the Missouri House Representatives Ethics Rules Procedure for the 102nd General Assembly and the Rules Procedure of the United States House of Representatives Committee on the Ethics of 118th Congress, I've requested an advisory opinion from the Missouri House Committee on Ethics on my proposed response to inquiry of October 17th, 2023. If you'll give me a moment." This was a sunshine request that was done promptly, I will say. But I did file for things I knew was there, and it came back. I thought the House staff was very quick. But essentially, the emails that my sunshine request returned said you'd let someone go, and the clerk wanted to continue to pay them. That is number one. It would strike me as odd. Now, maybe there are procedures I don't know about that if a member lets a staff person go or that person leaves, the clerk wouldn't have a reason to pay them for work they're not doing. But number two, I guess I wasn't aware that the House clerk could go to the ethics committee and convene a hearing and get advisory opinions. Is that typical?
You know what I'm going to comment on is what I spoke of earlier. The House Ethics Committee is an important committee. It has its procedures and policies. I believe they're going to draw conclusions as they are required.
Can you?
Okay, we'll go ahead and stop it there. Let me get my volume levels back to normal before you guys start talking. Please give me a second. Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and minimize that. I'll come back here. Okay, there's a lot to unpack with this video, and I didn't want to stop at every, 2 minutes and comment. But I did want to comment on that one thing, because the blaming of George Soros thing really, really bothers me a lot because Dean Plocher has just done so many bad things in the legislature, particularly in the last 3 years. And before then too, but the fact of the matter is blaming George Soros for all this stuff is just asininely stupid. The reason why, he's being called up for corruption is because of George Soros. No, it's because you keep doing corrupt things and you keep getting caught. And so if they want to say that the newspaper, Jason Hancock with the Missouri Independent, and by the way, he's answered all of these allegations. And they claim to be a conservative site. I say that it's probably slightly more liberal than I would consider a conservative outlet to be with the Missouri Independent. But I think that Jason Hancock has done some pretty good work here. And by the way, notice as they're saying all this stuff is coming down on him because of George Soros, he is not denying anything. He's denied that, that some stuff with the software. But as far as this stuff is going right now with the money being expensed to both his campaign and the legislature, or the taxpayers of Missouri, in other words, he's not denying any of it. But he is saying that it's because of George Soros that stuff is coming up. So comment, if you will.
I swear.
I'll comment. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
I swear, looking at this whole thing, that guy can't stop lying through his teeth. The only thing that's a giveaway is looking at his body language. I mean, you can see him start to do little nervous stuff right when he's about to say what's the not truth.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know here. Many of us in this group have either seen it from House floor proceedings or in there in person and witnessed the things that he's done to various bills on the floor.
Yep.
Whether it be that, and there are people in our group that have enough data to prove the things that he, or at least the people that are backing him directly, were offering him and what he was doing. He can't just back out of it like that. That's not how that works.
Okay. Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, I'll comment. Look, as far as this George Soros nonsense, let's look at all these bills that Plocher has throttled in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Getting rid of sales tax on food. That was not this last session, but the last session before that. He throttled that, and he wouldn't let any through this year. Now, why would George Soros have a problem with him on that? Okay, now let's look at 2118, the session before. That was they call it the Enhanced Stand Your Ground Act. I always call it the innocent until proven guilty, because what that would do is here in Missouri we got this insane asinine law that if you use deadly force to defend yourself, the burden of proof is upon the defendant. That goes against everything in our country, because you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Well, Plocher stopped that. He wouldn't even put it on the floor. Now, why would George Soros have a problem with that? Seems like to me they'd be pretty good buddies at this point. And look at Susie Pollack's bill, HB 2009, the session before. What he did to pull the rug out from under her. Now, why would George Soros have a problem with that? See, he's saying this stuff because he's thinking the people out there don't know all this other stuff with the bills and everything.
Yep.
Right?
Agreed.
Guess what? They're finding out. So you might want to try a different strat. No, keep doing it. Yeah, you're doing fine. Just keep going ahead. That's the point I'm making. This nonsense about George Soros, man, it's going to fly right back in his face, because people are going to see that's ridiculous. Especially the more they find out who Dean Plocher really is and what he's done in this legislature. like I said, they barely scratched the surface. I kind of hope he keeps fighting to stay speaker.
Yep.
The longer he stays in the spotlight, the more going to get dug up on him.
Yep. For what it's worth, I agree. And this is a very important point, and it's something that's worth repeating. This George Soros nonsense is just a distraction from Dean Plocher. It's a convenient way for him to say that the liberal socialists are coming after him because he's just so darn conservative. Take it from us, the Missouri Freedom Initiative. We go to Jeff City a lot, and we support good constitutional legislation that Dean shuts down. And it's not George Soros doing it, it's Dean Plocher doing it. We see it. We work these bills. We know the people up in Jeff City. And in fact, I would, there's stuff I just don't want to say live that I would be more comfortable in a private conversation. But honest to God, Dean Plocher, you actually need to start owning up to some of this stuff and stop blaming George Soros for the legislation the people of Missouri want that you keep killing. People got very excited over the prospect of getting rid of the sales tax on food in the state of Missouri, and you wouldn't let it happen. You wouldn't even let it on the floor. People got very excited about the silver and gold as legal tender bill. You let it go on the floor, and then you let Democrats, sit there and complain about Nazi gold, Confederate gold, MAGA gold, and zombie apocalypse silver for the next hour before you shut down that bill and actually didn't call for a vote on it. It was the most ridiculous thing we'd ever seen. Go ahead, Casey.
That day when I actually got a chance to speak to Plocher when I was up there in Jeff City last session, as asking what he thought about, SB 100. One of the things he asked me is, that's not going to interfere with the Federal Reserve, is it? Does that sound like somebody George Soros would want to go after? Come on, people. Let's get real here.
Yeah. So,
like I say, keep using that excuse, Dean.
Yeah, and
running with it.
Now he's saying this, he said it on Scott Fahn's show, This Week in Missouri Politics, that, it's time for George Soros to stop attacking him so he can get the work of the people done, like reducing property tax and reducing personal property tax. He has done nothing but stymie those bills in the Missouri legislature for the last 3 years. Bill Eigel, by the way, we should have Bill Eigel on sometime to talk about this, see what his thoughts are about Dean Plocher wanting to get property and personal property tax reductions done in the state of Missouri. I'm sure Senator Eigel would have a lot to say about that because he's been a champion for trying to get these reduced or eliminated in the state of Missouri. He's been an absolute champion for that. And Dean Plocher is his number one opponent in trying to get this done, and they're both Republicans. Dean Plocher, stop blaming Soros for this stuff. That's all I got to say. It's actually really weak. It's stupid. Those of us that go up to Jeff City and your peers know that you're lying about that, and also lying about you wanting to get conservative legislation over the finish line.
Soros is your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah. So
Soros is his biggest cheerleader.
Sure, I'm sure he is, and along with Klaus Schwab. With the cricket farms and the mealworm farms that are going up in Plocher's district right now. That's not even a joke, gang.
It's the bugs.
I wish I was joking. I think that's a result.
Eats the bugs.
Yeah, eats the bugs. And I think that's a result of his Israel trip last summer where, Governor Parsons, who went with him, literally just did all the tours in Israel while Plocher jet-setted around Europe for a whole bunch of meetings. It was paid for by the Heritage Group, which is the number one client of his law firm. I mean, there's stuff we could tie Plocher to illegal immigration into the United States through the train network. I mean, this guy is tied in some of the most insidious stuff happening in this country right now. And he's blaming George Soros for a newspaper article that came out about him. I mean, this is insidious.
It's a sad
it'd be funny.
excuse.
It would be funny if it turns out that find out later on that George Soros helped Dean get that cricket farm in his district.
Yep. Gosh
that'd
darn
be
it.
interesting, to say the least.
I wish Janelle was with us tonight because she'd have something interesting to say about this right now.
It'd be hilarious.
Yep. This is what we're going through in the state of Missouri. Why are we going on about this? Is it for clicks? Is it for popularity? Is it for views? Is it for more subscribers? No. The only way we're going to clean up our dirty laundry in the state is if we air it out. Every state should be doing this right now, what we're doing right here in Missouri. And I want to say a personal thank you if Jason Hancock ever watches this. Thank you for your stories, man. We appreciate it.
Every state.
Yeah, every state. That's right. Every state has this level of corruption, whether or not you're paying attention to your state or paying attention to the nightly news talking about the brand new war that's going on in Israel right now, U.S. involvement in the Middle East, or, you know, the Ukraine war with Russia, or the latest one that Putin's dead and, you know, his zombie government continues on without him. This is all nonsense bullcrap, folks. You need to clean up your states before the federal government brings down the hammer. The only way you can do this is by airing out your dirty laundry. If we have dirt on Plocher, it is not in our best interest to keep it to ourselves. The way it gets taken care of is by exposing it publicly, like Jason Hancock is doing, like Rogue Politics is doing. That's how you do it. And our organization is chartered with actually exposing corruption everywhere we find it. So we talk about corruption every time it's found, whether we find it or someone else finds it. It doesn't matter to us who finds it. You know, like I said, we're not about clicks and popularity contests, and none of our channels are monetized. So we're not doing this for money. We're not doing it for popularity. We're certainly not doing it for love. We're doing it because we need to clean up our state. And Dean Plocher is a very, very, very big mustard stain on the tie of Missouri. We got to get that mustard stain out. So, okay, if you guys have nothing else you want to say, I'm going to go forward here with a few of these articles. Actually, let's go to the, well, you had a video. Let's see. Rusty Shackelford wanted me to show this video here. So let me show it real quick. And let's see if I can get it. I'm going to have to move this window over here. Hang in there, guys. We're almost there.
Accused of tonight, there are calls for Missouri's House Speaker to resign. Dean Plocher is accused of filing false expense reports with the state legislature. Thanks for being with us. I'm Mike Bush.
I'm Kelly Jackson. Missouri law allows politicians to use their campaign accounts to pay for travel expenses, or they can seek reimbursement from the state, but they can't do both. Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, has been pressing the speaker to explain what happened.
Kelly and Mike, Republican House Speaker Dean Plocher says he's corrected those false expense reports, passing them off as administrative errors. But they were errors that landed at least $4,000 in taxpayer money in his pockets. He's now in the process of paying that money back to Missouri while he runs to become the next lieutenant governor.
And I will keep the secrets of the House.
House Speaker Dean Plocher was not available for an interview, but as he faces fresh scrutiny for filing false expense reports, a former state senator is emerging to challenge him in a Republican primary.
We need to restore integrity and transparency to Jefferson City government, so it's very likely you'll be seeing me announcing for lieutenant governor the next few weeks.
Bob Onder says he's jumping in to take on Plocher after the Missouri Independent reported the speaker falsely claimed reimbursements on travel expenses like a $1,200 plane ticket to Hawaii.
It's amazing to see the Speaker of the House, Dean Plocher, over 9 occasions, over 4 or 5 years, only paying back money after he got caught, seeing him essentially stealing the money of the people of the state of Missouri.
Plocher says in a statement posted online, "We self-reported and immediately corrected the administrative errors." His campaign says he's paid back nearly $4,000 in false expense reports so far.
I believe he's guilty of stealing the public's money, of basically embezzlement, and I think for the good of the district, the good of the state, I think he should resign.
Governor, is it enough that Speaker Plocher has said he would correct his false expense reports, or has he lost the public trust? Should he resign?
Well, I don't know all the details other than what I'm reading from you guys, but he needs to pay it back. I mean, if he owes the money, he needs to pay it back, and he needs to get it straight. He needs to tell it what happened, and that's the only thing you can do is just tell the truth and do what's right after that. So I don't know where that ends or where it goes, but right now what I do know is it sounds like he's paying it back, what I do know, and he needs to figure out if he's going to have the trust of the people. I don't know yet. I think it's too early to be able to tell that.
A House Ethics Commission is convening Friday and could open an investigation or begin to examine this more closely. We offered Plocher that chance to sit down and explain what happened, as Governor Parson called for. His political rivals, including Republican Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft and Attorney General candidate Will Scharf, have both said he should face investigation, explain himself, or resign.
Mark, thanks.
Okay, gang. Let me get my volume levels back to normal real quick before you start talking, please. Give me just a second. Okay, they're back to down to normal. Okay, well, that's the one, and thank you very much if you're watching right now, Rusty Shackelford. Thank you for that, because that's the quote where I believe the government is inviting the people of Missouri to contact their reps and the reps that are on the ethics committee to let them know what their opinion is on whether or not Dean Plocher can be trusted anymore. This is not the first time we've had problems with Dean Plocher. This is not the first scandal. It's one of many. So, and I think the governor is actually asking the people of Missouri to chime in on this. So if you live in Missouri, please do contact your rep and all the reps on the ethics committee and let them know your opinion on Dean Plocher, whether it be on him shutting down gold and silver, and everyone saw that in real time. Him shutting down Susie Pollack's HB 2009, Parents' Choice on Vaccination, where he wouldn't let tax relief come onto the floor of the House when he was floor leader or as speaker. Maybe you're upset about the software scandal and then the possibility of him getting $800,000 put in his PAC for purchasing $8,000 worth of software with the people's money. Another form of embezzlement or fraud, if you will. Or maybe you're upset about this latest debacle where he was charging the taxpayers money for campaign or, political trips, where he was also billing, basically his massive, massive war chest of campaign funds.
I caught it that morning that story came out. And I wanted to contact you, but it was like 7, 8 in the morning. I was like, I ain't gonna, he might be sleeping, so.
Yep.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I had to step away to use the restroom. So if I missed anything.
Nope, that's okay. That's okay. And I have seen that. That's actually on Twitter. So that same clip is on Twitter as well. And I would have brought it up from Twitter. In fact, I had it queued up. But it was a good reminder. So thank you. So any of these scandals that upset you about Plocher, you should be contacting your rep and letting them know whether or not you believe Dean Plocher has the confidence of the people to continue leading the House, the Missouri House, the House of Representatives, as Speaker. Maybe he needs to step down as Speaker because we can't trust him anymore. And like I said, there's so many scandals with this man. I mean, just pick one. Just pick one that you know and talk to your rep about it. Email and call your rep, please. And don't let them say, well, that's up to the ethics committee. No. Your rep did or either voted for Plocher to become Speaker or didn't. Your rep either voted for H.R. 11, the House rules, or they didn't under Plocher. Your rep shares some responsibility here too, because he was already embattled in scandal well before he was made Speaker. So this is something that the people need to get involved. We're cleaning up Jefferson City right now. And if you
I'll definitely be calling my representative Ben Brown first thing Monday morning.
He's your senator.
Yeah, my bad. You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
So I've not called my senator because the Senate has nothing to do with
You're right.
this.
I forget. You're right.
Yep. But I have. Go ahead, Casey.
One more thing about another your rep thing. Your rep has to deal with Dean Plocher being the Speaker of the House. Your rep is affected by how Dean decides what bills go into committee or what gets on the floor or anything else. So just for your rep to say, hey, that's up to the ethics committee, I ain't got nothing to do with this nonsense. Your rep needs to step up.
Yep. And I can't agree with you more.
Because if your rep doesn't, then your rep won't be able to represent you.
That's right.
Think about that. Again, any casual listeners on here tonight. Anytime your rep tells you, oh, it's none of my business, it's what they're saying is, I don't want that responsibility, even though, I took this job, but hey.
The first casualty in any political war is the truth. Always. That's always the truth. And that's the first casualty of a real war, too. And the fact of the matter is, the truth is out there on Dean Plocher. It's been exposed. It's been brought to House people's attention. Whether or not they have done anything with that information, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is,
my stuff got changed with redistricting. That's what my problem.
Well, yeah, redistricting, gerrymandering, these districts. But I can't say this enough. It's up to the people now. The governor basically said that right now. He just said that. We played that. In fact, I should link that up at the bottom of all of these videos and all these platforms we're streaming on. The governor is asking the people of Missouri, do you trust Dean Plocher? He's basically asking whether or not he will retain the trust of the people. If that's the case, then it's now on us, all of us. It's not on Dean Plocher. It's on us, the people of Missouri, to contact our representatives and contact the Ethics Committee and let them know whether or not we trust Dean Plocher. So this is something all of us have to do. By the way, I have already emailed and called everyone on the Ethics Commission, including my rep, Bob Titus. In fact, I don't think I gave a call to Bob Titus, but Bob Titus did acknowledge the email that I sent him, which was the same email that went to the Ethics Committee. So Bob knows exactly where I stand on this. But I'll tell you what, because everything's on hold now, because after 4.5 hours of meeting in the Ethics Committee, they've decided to stop the meeting, and they're going to resume on November 8th. So they all have to go back up to Jeff City, because remember now, we're not in session right now. This is an extraordinary situation that's going on right now. An Ethics Committee meeting outside of normal session, or outside of a veto session, or an extraordinary session. This is by itself going on. Nothing else is going on in Jeff City. So, guys, this is serious. Take advantage of the time that we have until November 8th to call and email your rep and everyone on the Ethics Committee.
Dean should also reimburse the taxpayers what it costs for that session.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know how that works exactly. But representatives don't get paid extra for being there. Representatives in Missouri get paid $36,000 a year, and they meet 5 months out of the year. They get a per diem as well, so they can get housing and food while they're up in Jeff City. But believe me, you don't go into Missouri politics to get rich unless you're working with lobbyists. Then there's a lot of money to make. And,
you can say unless your name is Dean Plocher.
Well, Dean Plocher, and in fact, I want to say this. In January of 2023, when he became Speaker, or I'm sorry, he was already Speaker, but he started his first year as Speaker. We were up there on January 11th. Did you guys notice all the lobbyists hanging out at Dean's office in the single file, waiting to talk to Dean? It was just amazing. There was about a dozen lobbyists. They were not legislators. We know the legislators up there. These were lobbyists waiting their turn to spend time with Dean. That's what Dean does up there. He is a business agent, basically, for businesses with the state. He is not there for the people. He is there for businesses. That's what Dean Plocher is. He's a corporatist. And someone will say, well, you can't say that until you've walked a mile in his shoes. I have bought, a very expensive pair of shoes, $500, that I'm told from, my insider that Dean wears at his house. And it was the most comfortable mile I ever walked before. So I think I can say this, with some authority now. Guys, seriously, anyone who wants to say, I am with Soros if I'm attacking Dean Plocher certainly has not been watching our channel for the last 3 years. Dean Plocher has been a thorn in the side of getting constitutional legislation done in the state of Missouri for 3 years, at least. So that's where I stand on it. And going up to Jeff City is an interesting experience in itself. And you do get to catch onto these things. Dean Plocher is one of those guys you can't if you're passing Dean Plocher in the hall, he's not going to talk to you. And he's usually surrounded by a bunch of people to make sure that you can't talk to him. But that's not true with Senator Ben Brown, Senator Mike Moon, Senator Rick Bratton, Senator, Bill Eigel. But you pass them in the hall, and you say, hey, how's it going? They'll stop and talk to you. Unless they're really running late, because that does happen. But that's not true with Plocher. He is not there for the people. And by the way, if you're a regular person or a constituent, good luck getting a meeting with the guy. And I'm not just saying that to be mean. It's not ironic humor either. It's just the truth. Good luck. I seriously wish you luck. You're not going to get the time unless you go there with a suitcase and look like you're about to give him, an envelope full of cash. He just doesn't have time for you. That's Dean Plocher up in Jeff City. And he's the guy complaining about Soros coming after him.
Hey, quick question. Did he save 10% for the big guy?
That's a good question. I don't know if he, now we can get into the ironic humor. We don't know if he's working with Biden or not. But he certainly isn't working with the people of Missouri. The people of Missouri are kind of an afterthought for Dean. Not even an afterthought, is kind of an, I don't know how to describe it.
We're an annoyance.
Yeah, we're an annoyance to Dean Plocher. We go to his office all the time, by the way. We can't get his time. His staff is great. We have never, ever complained about his staff before. He has, in fact, he has in L.A. there, I believe her name is Diana, who is one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
You should go by Corn Pop Jr.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll call him Corn Pop. I don't know that anyone's going to get that reference. So, man, everyone keeps talking. Couldn't hear most of the video. Okay, on Rhino, yeah, we did stop that. I did shut it down for a little bit. I think you're way behind on the buffering, though. So we did take care of that. So I don't know. I guess I just want to say that going up to Jefferson City is an interesting experience. And people assign us conservatives. We're conservatives. I don't know that that's exactly true. We're constitutionalists. And it seems to me that the conservative part of the Republican Party is more closely aligned with the Constitution than any other party, or any other faction of the party. Because remember now, there's three factions of the Republican Party. You've got the constitutionalists, you've got the squishies, and then you've got the rhinos, but they all put an R after their name. So how many of them, do we associate with, or do we align more closely with? Only 1/3 of them, the true constitutionalists in Jefferson City, the ones that want to go by the Constitution, that want to keep their oath.
I go with a true constitutional conservative. That's what I go with.
Yep.
And anybody that don't know the definition of conservative means you believe in limited government.
Yep.
If you want a limited government, you're conservative.
Yep. I gotcha. Rhino says, I missed the first part of this. Do we think the ethics committee meeting yesterday was about Plocher shenanigans? Yes, Rhino 76, there is no doubt in our minds it was about Plocher shenanigans, but we haven't received any official say, but I'll tell you what, there's just nothing else it could possibly be at this point. Rhino also says, I made calls to the whole committee and wondered where they're at on it. They're not going to comment on that. In fact, if you saw at the beginning of the video, basically you've got Hannah Kelly saying that they're not going to comment on this until after they issue a written report on what they've been working on. Well, we have to wait till at least after November 8th for that, because that's not coming out anytime soon. So at any rate, I'm pretty sure this is about Plocher, though. So we talk about the kinds of people we deal with in Jefferson City in relation to, Dean Plocher. Dean Plocher, we can't talk to. We can't get a meeting. It doesn't matter how many of us are up there. If we've got 30 people up there all clumped together asking for a meeting with Dean Plocher, he still won't make the time. An interesting juxtaposition is if we go to a Democrat's office. It's kind of interesting. They generally make time for us. With one exception, Peter Meredith, oddly enough, he has never, ever, 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 ever been available to me anytime I've tried to meet with him. And that's just a weird coincidence, I think, because most Democrats I can meet with. And it's kind of fun, to talk to Democrats where you can kind of go up to them and swagger up to them.
You still need a mask to meet with them, though?
Yes, I have asked to meet with him.
No, you don't need a mask.
You don't still require the mask.
Actually, I've never.
Oh, hang
never
on.
had
The
problems,
masks, not all of them
getting a
require
hold of them.
masks. So, I was just going to give an ironic joke, but I think I've lost my place on that. So we'll just go ahead with the conversation, gang.
But talking about Peter Meredith, I've never had problems contacting him. So
You personally know my problems getting a hold of Peter Meredith, though.
yeah,
Because
well,
every time I'm up there, he's never available.
that's you guys.
Yep.
That's like, you guys are saying it's easy to get a hold of Rick Bratton now if you're trying to work a bill for him, but yeah, I guess that one's my problem, huh?
Yep. Well, you see, once again, I can't really, I wasn't up there for that, but you have been up there when I've been trying to meet with Peter Meredith. You see that. He's never, ever available. He won't come out for meetings to talk to me and such. So, you've actually seen that. And Rick Bratton.
Come on, Pete, just come
I've
out.
been
and
up there
talk to
with
this
y'all. I
guy,
can say
you
one
know.
thing. I can say.
Joe Mama, I'm going to give you the floor here because you keep coming in. Just go ahead with your piece now. I guess he muted himself. Okay.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I accidentally muted myself. No, I agree with you. When it comes to meeting with Rick Bratton, he's always been available to us every time I've gone up there.
Yep. So I've not had any luck there either. Let's see. Warrior Class, his representative is Hannah Kelly. He says, I don't know who Hannah Kelly represents, but it ain't me. Yep. So a lot of people say that about Hannah Kelly, actually. And let's see. Warrior Class says, Plocher is a globalist Democrat that runs as a Republican. I see him more of a squishy. I don't see him as a Democrat, actually. He's a squishy.
But they got the word globalist correct.
Yeah, he's definitely a globalist. But then again, that's where the money is. Plocher is like a bank robber. He goes where the money is. That's really, truly what it's like to be Plocher.
It's literally
funny.
Bank robber reference is actually the Bob Iger used
Yep.
on Twitter.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. We're going to cover just one or two more of these before we look at. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring it up easily.
While you bring that up, I was going to say, a lot of people in this world don't yeah, communism is a threat to our democracy. A lot of people don't realize the true threat to our democracy is globalists. Nobody ever calls them out. They're the enemy. Nobody ever calls out. And when somebody does call that out, I stand behind them tenfold.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to do this one here because this one had some more quotes in it. This one here is from the kansascity.com. And it says, Missouri ethics panel starts inquiry as House Speaker Plocher faces calls to resign. The Missouri Ethics Committee met behind closed doors for more than 4 hours on Friday to discuss a personnel inquiry. Okay, I'm going to get to some of the quotes here. Let's see. Well, we already talked about Hannah Kelly and basically what she had said. Let's see. I wanted to read Mazzy Boyd's, and I might have to go into Facebook or Twitter because she actually had a really, really good one. If anyone has easy access to Mazzy Boyd's, please throw it in Gilded for me. Caleb, if you know where that is.
Yeah, I probably can. Let me go to Facebook.
Okay, thank you. The reason being is because I think even Ron Calzone had it typed in, basically as a comment on hers that it was the most measured response out of all the responses that were coming in. My letter to the ethics committee was a little stronger, a little more straightforward, because I was calling for, Dean Plocher to literally be removed from the 89th district seat in the House of Representatives. And I think that that's a measured response. But at any rate, unseating him from the speakership is probably much more of a measured response for the particular instance he finds himself in. When I was writing my letter to the Ethics Committee, I was thinking the whole kit and caboodle. What he did to Susie Pollack, how he destroyed HB 2118, how he destroyed, basically getting rid of sales tax on food, how he destroyed silver and gold, the fact that he's colluding with the Missouri Realtors Association to prevent IP reform in the state of Missouri. See, I put all these together along with the new embezzlement story, for my measured response. Mazzy's was more based on just what's going on right now with the expense reports problem. So
it's in there.
Okay, you put it in there? Okay. All right, this is Mazzy Boyd. Very, very impressive young lady from Northwest Missouri. And I believe she's 25 years old. She's one of the youngest representatives we've ever had before, if not the youngest. I think she was elected at 23. But at any rate, from Hamilton, Missouri, Mazzy Boyd, state representative in the Missouri House, representing District 2 in Northwest Missouri, has issued the following statement in response to the allegations against Speaker Plocher. Over the last several weeks, we have heard multiple accusations against Speaker Plocher and his alleged unethical behavior that is deeply concerning. From his business dealings with Fireside and an $800,000 contract for software that is unnecessary, to allegedly threatening staff employment who challenged his double dealing, to his latest accusation of receiving thousands of dollars in reimbursements personally when his campaign had paid for these lavish trips. The allegations just keep coming. But while these are mere accusations, there seems to be a pattern developing. As a conservative member of the Missouri House, I have lost confidence that Speaker Plocher can lead effectively. I believe he needs to devote his time to clearing his name and serving his district. And he can't do all that while remaining Speaker of the House. That's why I'm calling on Speaker Plocher to resign as Speaker. I would also urge the Missouri House Ethics Committee to do a full investigation on the numerous accusations of misconduct. The people of Missouri deserve to know the full extent and the veracity of these allegations against Plocher. Once Ethics Committee has finished their investigation, the House can determine whether or not further action should be taken. Until that process is complete, I believe we need a new leader with integrity to help the House Republicans move forward. The legislator can't be bogged down by this distraction. We have work that needs to be done for Missourians. The state can't wait until 2025. You know what? I have to agree with Ron Calzone. That is an excellent, excellent response to the current situation. Mazzy Boyd gets a gold star from the Missouri Freedom Initiative on that. And by the way, that's not an endorsement. We don't endorse candidates here. But Mazzy Boyd, she had a perfect response. And that is literally, we know Plocher will not step down from the House speakership. The Ethics Committee has to force him to step down. And that's basically what Mazzy is asking them to do. And so at any rate, but what does your representative say? If you don't know what your representative says or thinks, and they haven't released a public statement, such as Mazzy Boyd, whether it's for or against the problems with Plocher, call your representative. Email your representative. This is on you. The governor actually put the ball in your court. And if you don't call, who is your representative going to listen to? It's going to listen to one of two people, a lobbyist or Plocher himself. That's who your representative is going to listen to if you don't call and give your opinion on the latest scandal. I mean, when I did mine, I did lots of scandals in one email. So I didn't limit myself to just this new money laundering operation that
First
Plocher
thing
was
Monday
doing.
morning, I'm calling Kyle McCurk. I think that's how you say his last name.
Okay, good deal. Everyone should be making plans to call their representative. So if you guys have any questions at this point, let's see. Go ahead and throw them out into the comment section here because I'm thinking about wrapping up here. If you guys have any questions or comments you want me to read out loud, I'm going to look through here. I'm looking on Odysee right now. Let's see. Lots of people don't know that there are stealth Democrats in the Republican Party, like Dean Plocher, says Warrior Class 3. Cheryl says, does he even have a conscience? That's a very good question. Let's see. Oh, Marby's actually said something else I need to go back to, and this is on Odysee. Don't forget that Plocher is the ULC commissioner. In 2022, the ULC met in Philly and discussed monetary policy, including redefining money. Sounds like CDBCs. The Hawaii trip.
What is it?
Hang on. Stop. Let me finish this up, man. The Hawaii trip was to the ULC meeting in 2023. This is the universal legal code. And so these are the ones that don't want gold and silver as money. These are the ones that want central bank digital currencies. And Plocher is the commissioner. Interesting. Did you guys know that Plocher was the ULC commissioner?
I didn't even know they existed till you just said that.
Yep. So that's another interesting thing. Now I need to write yet another email to the ethics.
George Soros is going after Plocher?
Yeah, George Soros going after.
Best buds, man.
Okay.
They're in bed together, figurative speaking.
Yep. Thank you, Marby.
They may, they may be in other regards too, but
Don't get jealous, Scott Vaughn.
Yep. Cheryl says Sassman's answer was like doublespeak and was not clear in which way he wants to go with Plocher. Cheryl, that makes perfect sense to me with Sassman, actually. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so that's what I got in Odysee. Moving over to YouTube. There's a ton of chatting going on YouTube. Let's see. Gary Wright says, Peter Meredith proved himself, on the floor with SB 100. What a joke. That's true. He kept going on about Nazi gold and how excellent and how awesome the dollar is, and we don't need a replacement. We don't even need competition. Sam Ian says,
good at making memes.
Even the closed caption from YouTube news video titled him Dean Plocher. Yeah, it's when I do speech to text on my phone, and it always ends up as Plucker or Blocker, or
That would be me, right?
Yeah. So, as Sam I am, thanks for joining us, buddy. Nice to see you here. Okay, with Twitch, we've only had one viewer, and he hasn't said, or she hasn't said a single thing. So, no worries there. Let me go on to Rumble. And guys, I don't know if you guys know Tribulation Prepper or remember Tribulation Prepper. He's been with us since SEPA. And if those who go to Travis's meetings may have met him, his wife, and I don't know if you guys remember, she was in a wheelchair, but she passed away on October 5th after taking a fall and hitting her head on a bathtub. And so, Trib, I am, and I've already typed this, but I am terribly sorry, man. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman. Glad I got to meet her. And
there's one meeting I've always wanted to go to, and I never have got the chance to go to. Is meetings with the preferred homestead, right?
Morkster says Plocher seems like one of the good old boys and a club member. Yep, he is definitely that. Yeah, Scott Vaughn is throwing too many softballs, says Tribulation Prepper. Yeah, that's what Scott Vaughn does.
Where was that you saw that was it in the comments you saw that about him going to the ULC?
Yeah, that's
UL.
Yep, that is in let's see. Yes, it's in Odysee and in the comment section from Marby's. Okay. And
That got me looking up ULC tonight.
Yeah, that just needs to add to something on work.
They have the real. Okay. Carolyn Rose Goida. Be active, contact the well-paid representatives and write letters to editors. Share on social media. Make sure that you know and vote for your local sheriff and judges. They are the real power in your life. And Carolyn, that is correct. That is absolutely correct. The local level is where you really need to pay attention, all the way up to the state. The federal government is just a circus. There's nothing that can be done there anyway. People spend all of their time looking at the federal And the federal has very, very little influence on their lives, believe it or not. Okay, I think we've pretty much covered everything and all the comments. Vicky Simbro on Facebook said he truly should resign. Keep waking the communities up. Okay, so I think we pretty much covered all the comments. That's a lot of streams to be covering comments on, but I'm very glad for each and every one of you. I want to thank you for joining tonight. So I'll give the guys in the group here in Gilded the final say. You guys have anything you'd like to talk about?
Not that I can think of at the moment. My brain's running on a couple other things right now with this.
I gotta say, I love every single thing that we are doing here with the Freedom Initiative. I can tell we're truly an organization that truly cares about the people and the future of our state. And I ask God to bless you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And I think we're doing the Lord's work. I really do. And I'm not just saying that because it's a popular thing to say, or it's something that you say when you're among Christians. Because the fact of the matter is the United States government, unfortunately, is in the process of converting over to feudalism right now. Most people don't understand that or don't know it. It's happening kind of slow, but it's definitely happening. And the only way you're going to stop it is by literally getting your state, basically get all the corruption out of your state. So your state can block all the bad stuff that's coming out of the federal government. 10th Amendment stuff, nullification. 9th Amendment stuff too. And, your state can help you with that, actually. Your state can acknowledge it with legislation or with additions to your state constitution. This is on you guys. I mean, this is not up to your state people to know what to do and understand what to do, because believe it or not, as we're finding out, most people in the Missouri legislature know less about the U.S. Constitution and the Missouri Constitution than we do. So it's up to us to bring them this information and give them ideas, help them with ideas with bills and things of that nature. That's not all of them. Trust me, it's not all of them, but it is most of them. So, and I don't think any less of them, because I'm more of a constitutional nerd than they are, and that's okay. I'm not running for office, they are, and that's okay. As long as they will listen to me and work with me, we got nothing to worry about. So,
Bet you should run for office.
No.
You have my vote.
I don't think so. I don't think they would like me there. So, and I can do, a lot of wonderful things.
Missourians would love you there, though.
George Soros. Oh yeah. Then, I got to worry about George Soros coming after me. Oh, I don't think so. I mean, Dean Plocher's having an awful time right now. So, all right, gang. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and go ahead and end it for this evening. I think, basically, like I said, hey, Voodoo Queen, you have anything you'd like to end with tonight?
No, you pretty well hit it all on the nail.
Okay. All right. Well, remember, gang.
He always does a great job of hitting it on the nail. That's why I say you should run for office.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your confidence in me, but I don't think that's in the cards for me. I want to also thank Casey Rich for all of his great comments tonight. And we had other people in here earlier as well.
More?
Yep. Nope. Yeah. Once again, man, I mean, you hit a really, really good point tonight. So I really appreciate you chiming in.
I got one more thing I say before we go, if it's all right.
Go for it.
I know things may be a little stressful at this time, with all this stuff coming down on you. It might be getting you down. You might actually be considering stepping down. You can't do that, man. Don't let these people bring you down, man. You gotta keep fighting and stay on, because the longer you do that, the more the spotlight's going to be on you, and the more dirt we're going to be able to dig up. So don't let these people, make you resign. I'm your biggest cheerleader, dude. You just keep going, man. You just keep giving it all you got. You stay up there, you stay in the spotlight, give us more time to dig up more dirt on you, man. So you just keep going. All right? Go Plocher and go Chiefs. All right.
Oh, that was beautiful. It brought a tear to my eye,
Yeah, I gotta say, Casey, that was pretty good.
Yep. That was absolutely beautiful. And with that, I'm going to bid you all a good night. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget, November 5th, we have a meet and greet, a legislative meet and greet in Eureka, Missouri, and that's with Holly Jones and Justin Sparks, two representatives you could talk to directly before the Ethics Committee meets again. So if you want to get...
Holly is awesome.
Holly is awesome. That is right. We don't know Justin Sparks very well, but I look forward to getting to know him better. But I know Holly pretty well, and she is a very, very good rep. If you live in Eureka, you've got excellent representation. Excellent representation. So
I met her personally, too, with Pat. I second that motion.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, you guys all have a wonderful evening. May God bless each and every one of you. And we will be back on next Saturday night. And I will have a guest from Wisconsin joining me live in the studio. So that'll be fun, too. Thank you again for joining. You guys take care. May God bless you all.
Go Chiefs.